Thank you very much. Let me share my screen so that you can see my slides. Right, you should be able to see my slides. I'm going to be talking about the economics of mergers and innovation. My name is Kate Rocket, and I'll be talking for about 20 minutes, and you'll have about 10 minutes at the end for questions. I encourage you to ask them. Also, I will apologize ahead of time in case there are any transmission problems. I don't anticipate any, but given that the internet is what it is, we may or may not encounter any difficulty. So apologize ahead of time. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. If I can get the slides to switch. Like I say, my name is Kate Rocket. I've taught at Essex since 1999. I'm a professor of economics, and I've just stepped down as head of economics. I'm now deputy head. But if you wish to ask questions about an international comparison of studies or about academic work rather than private sector work, I've worked in insurance as an actuary and underwriter. I've worked as a consultant. I've also taught in both business schools and economics departments. So I would be more than happy to perform a comparison for you. Like I say, today we're going to talk about mergers and innovation. Innovation has been shown empirically and in theory to be a real driver of growth. The only question is whether you're of the school where innovation is the sole responsible for long-term economic growth, or whether it shares that role with other policy tools. Innovation is something that is affected fairly strongly by government policy. There are many tools to affect innovation rates. Other policies, however, end up interacting with innovation. Merger is one of them. Merger is also controlled by most governments. Most governments have a regulatory procedure that approves mergers or not. And generally, in the past, merger regulation has been driven by concern about price movements. So the concern is that if you let firms get too big, they become too monopolistic, and they drive the price up towards the monopoly price, and that hurts consumers, either by making it impossible for them to purchase the good, or by making it so expensive that they essentially give up too much in order to purchase the good that the monopolist provides. So merger and innovation are both under the control of governments. And the concern more recently has been whether mergers should be evaluated much more broadly than just on the basis of price movements. Whether in fact the size of firms or the concentration of product markets actually affects firms' innovation potential. Now, there's been a lot of work on whether or not innovation actually is created by a profit incentive. Many studies have indicated that scientists often innovate out of pure creativity, out of commitment to the scientific goals. However, in order to have a firm actually take that great new scientific idea and develop it into a commercial proposal that could generate a product that would be available to consumers, there is a lot of investment that has to occur. If you look at an average new drug, not even necessarily a blockbuster drug, you're talking about $1.5 billion just to get it from the idea stage to a developed product that would actually potentially be commercializable. On top of that, You have to add regulatory approval if it's a drug or vaccine for COVID, for example. And you have to look at the cost of manufacturing facilities as well. So this is an extremely expensive proposition. And all of those expenses occur well before you have ever sold your first product. So all of that investment has to occur up front. And firms are understandably worried about taking on that amount of expenditure if they aren't guaranteed a return on the investment. The problem with a nice new idea, such as a vaccine for COVID, is that once the molecular combination that produces that vaccine is out, it's very easy for any competitor to reverse engineer it and come out with their own version, not having incurred all of that innovation cost. So firms are worried about this large expense, and if there's easy imitation of their innovation, they will not recoup that expense. So the system that's been devised in order to allow firms to recoup their expense to get some kind of reward for their new idea is the patent system. The patent system grants a temporary exclusive right to make and sell an innovative product or process for a certain number of years. So usually patents last for 20 years if you go through all the renewals. And that is the primary tool throughout the world of generating an innovative incentive, because the idea is that, yes, it makes you a monopolist in some sense. So it allows you to raise the price. That price raising is precisely what creates the reward for you over many years for generating this innovation. Now, that's great. That does create an innovation incentive, and it's been shown that that's effective in many settings. However, on the other hand, that monopoly position that you get from your good new idea, because it creates such a comfortable position for the firm, because it creates so many profits, can also ironically reduce the incentive of the firm to follow up on that first innovation and improve or come up with other innovations, because it reduces the push factor of innovation where you're trying to move away from a low profit position into a high profit position. It gives you those high profits already. So it creates innovation incentives, but too much monopoly power can also put a brake on innovation because it puts a brake on follow-ups. Now, you could ask the opposite question of what if I make firms very small rather than making them very large, rather than making monopolists? What happens if can I make them too small? Can I reduce their size so much that the innovation incentive goes away? The answer to that is, well, yes. On the other side, if you make product markets way too competitive, so even if you give a patent right to the firm, it's exploiting it over a very small part of the market, then even if you give an exclusive position to a firm, it doesn't get enough reward to be able to justify these high expenses in the first place. So you can have a market that's too concentrated, that's too monopolized, because you get this brake put on future innovations. But you can also get markets way too competitive in the sense that they're looking at a reward that's too small. So while they don't like their current competitive position, they're not moving to something that's good enough. So what you see in the theory is that there's a Goldilocks point. So Goldilocks, as you probably know, is the fairy tale character in old English language fairy tales, where Goldilocks is a little girl who goes and visits a bear's house, and the bear has a wife and a child, and they each have 3 different sizes of chair, of bowl, of bed. And Goldilocks tries all of them and says she likes the middle-sized one absolutely the best. So what we're seeing in innovation incentives is that there's also a Goldilocks point in product market competition where markets can be way too monopolized, or they can be way too competitive in order to get strong innovation potential, because in each case there's a brake placed on the innovation incentives. And if you take this to the data, I've got a picture here of some raw data, which is across a wide number of industries, where innovation is measured on the vertical axis and the amount of competition, product market competition, on the horizontal axis, where markets get more competitive to the right. And you see that this Goldilocks point, the point of maximum innovation, is not all the way to the right in the most competitive markets. It's at rather competitive markets, but not super competitive markets. And if you massage the data somewhat to take out a number of the other confounding effects and get a better causal link between product market structure and innovation, you still end up with a Goldilocks point. And actually you can disaggregate the data and say something even stronger, that in industries where firm strength is relatively even, so-called neck and neck industries, you get even more of an innovation bonus. So we can say something about product market competition and firm size, that you want markets competitive, but not too competitive, and you don't want any one firm getting to be too dominant in that industry. So what can we do to engineer this? Well, you could say that perhaps this gives us a general rule for merger policy. Unfortunately, that's not true, because the exact Goldilocks point differs by industry, it differs by time, it differs by country. So blanket policies aren't necessarily appropriate, but a great role for an economist in this is look at a case-by-case analysis of mergers and decide which ones make the industry too competitive, too concentrated, too monopolized, and which firms get you towards the Goldilocks point for that particular industry, for that country, and for that time period. So to outline briefly the ways an economist can help, they can certainly give general policy guidance for decision-making to policymakers, a decision rule, if you will, on how to combine innovation and mergers. They can do specific case analysis by looking at the numbers, by looking at the particular merger that's proposed and deciding whether for that merger it's a good idea or not. And it can look at other, the economists can look at other sorts of policies that can be used in conjunction with merger policy to improve the amount of innovation in the economy. In other words, an economist would have a wide enough set of tools that you can say, merger is not the only way to look at this, at the innovation dilemma, if you will, at the job of increasing innovation. There are other tools as well. When is merger the right tool? When are these other tools appropriate? So as takeaways, innovation is an important engine of economic growth. We know that right now in the case of COVID. We've got the hope for a vaccine that hopefully will reduce the public health risk, but equally innovation is going to be important to dig ourselves out of the recession. There are many policy tools that affect innovation incentives. Merger policy, it turns out, is one of them, and it's particularly relevant right now because so many mergers have been proposed in the post-COVID world. So firms are pressing regulators to approve mergers for various reasons. Economists have to come in thinking about price movement, thinking about innovation, thinking about the specifics of market concentration for the industries and the time period and the country in question, and make decisions about which of these mergers would be a good idea and which one would be a bad idea. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation. If you've not applied to study with us yet, and you'd like more information on courses, or if you'd like reminders about our upcoming webinars, please complete the inquiry form on the slide, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.